Hey, this is Rocket Brain Surgeon, and we're grinding out the StuG III. This is a Tier 5 German tank destroyer. The pros and cons of the tank. It's very comfortable. We'll get back to that one in a moment. It's a very easy grind from stock, as the gun has 103 penetration right from the get-go. It has very good penetration at 150 when it's eliteed. The downsides to the tank: it has poor view range at 310, very poor hit points at 350, we'll get to that a little bit later, and all of these add up to mean that it really has difficulty carrying games. First up, superior comfort. What do I mean when I say a tank is comfortable to drive? I mean that when you want to relax, grab a beer, and just engage in the time-honored tradition of shooting some noobs, this is one of the tanks you're going to grab. The StuG III has a very good reputation among players for being easy to drive. It has decent maneuverability, solid frontline speed, good enough aim time on the gun, a very effective gun for its tier. However, comfortability doesn't necessarily mean it's effective. The T-49, for example, has a turret and incredible damage per minute to rely on. The M4 Sherman has that great gun depression so it can hide most of its tank. The KV-1 has awesome armor for its tier. And even the S35CA has great alpha and a strong upper hull to go hull down. But the StuG III just doesn't have that one thing that separates it from the rest of the pack. You'll notice that I just passed over the preceding gameplay on Karelia without really mentioning anything, because there's really not much to mention. The StuG III is best at being unseen in the back and shooting at things that walk in front of your gun. When you try to force the action, that's when the StuG III gets into problems, and here's where the hit points at 350 become a large liability. And before you say, hey, other tanks in tier have low hit points too, it's just that other tanks have other abilities that allow them to minimize the impact of their low hit point pool. Both the M10 Wolverine and the T-49 have turrets, so they can hide a large portion of their tank behind cover while firing. The S35CA and the AT-2 have very strong frontal protection, and the SU-85 has that wonderful Russian camo. But the StuG III is just kind of out in the cold, not having a good defensive option. Looking at the gameplay finally, we're up 5-0 on Wide Park, and I'm just getting restless. I can't really find anything to do, and look, I get spotted and shotted by another enemy, which immediately knocks down into pretty much one-shot range. So you can't make a lot of mistakes. And in Tier 6 games, 350 hit points is enough to get one shot by anything sporting one of the 122mm cannons. Not to mention, all of the derp guns in the Tier 5 range can also one-shot you. The StuG III is very relaxing to play and fun to drive, but only if people aren't shooting at you. Happy hunting.